This is Asim here. Hope you're well. As promised last week, that I would be making the videos for question 5 and question 6 for all of you. So you can see on the screen now that I have got the question for you guys. The question number 5 states as that plot a scatter graph to show the relationship between purchase frequency and insurance cost, and what trend do you observe? So you are required to create a scatter graph on the basis of two columns of this data set, which is the purchase frequency as well as the insurance cost in here. And then there is a second part of the question is how does ownership status influence both purchase frequency and insurance cost? In this question, which is question number 2, part 2 of question 6, there is no requirement for drawing a graph in here. So that's what you need to be very careful. Okay. But if any one of you want to draw the graph just to prove the evidence and to represent the information, that's absolutely fine. There is no negative marking for this. Rather, it would be appreciated that you have gone beyond the expectations of this question. So now, as I mentioned, that this is question number 5, and there are two sections to this question, which is plot a scatter graph, and then we have to have how does ownership status work on this one. So these two questions, and similarly, just like every other week, every other question, I mentioned that we would like to have a very simple pattern for this one, which is, for instance, I am going to create a new sheet in here, so I can actually go and click on insert, and I want a new sheet in here. So this is the sheet 1, and I can actually drag and drop in here, and I can give the name to this, which is question 5 part 1. And then you have question 5 part 1, and in this section we are going to have the question number 1, which is the plot a scatter graph on the basis of the relationship between purchase frequency and insurance cost. So let's go back into your data and let's find out where is the purchase frequency and insurance cost in here. So looking at this one, we have insurance cost and a purchase frequency next to each other. So you can actually highlight these two. You can copy these ones and you can copy and paste in here. Remember, most of the values have been changed in here just to keep the anonymity of the questions, and your answers might be different to my answers as well. So you have to think about it, that what is the right answer in here. But this in this video, I'm just going to explain, just like every other video, I'm just trying to explain the steps you are required to do in here. So once you have copied and pasted these two columns here, if you remember, just to reiterate, the first question is to plot a scatter graph to show the relationship between purchase frequency and insurance cost. So similarly, we have copied and pasted these two columns from there and put that in question 5, part 1, and then you highlight these two, and then you go and insert, and here we go. We got different types of charts. Different versions of Excel might show you different graphs, but you have to pick up the scatter graph. Click onto that one, and then you can pick anyone in here, but I would prefer you to use the first option in here. And here we go. This is the insurance cost versus your purchase frequency. So I'm leaving these x-axis and y-axis in here for you guys to actually rename by them by yourself. If you click onto this plus sign in here, it will give you different types of options in here. So if you wanted to have a trend line, it's a steep high going up in here from this section to from number 1 to going up to 4. It is a steep high option. So this relationship shows a weak positive relationship as far as, because I have changed the data. So your relationship, your trend line may turn up a very strong one, or maybe weak negative, weak positive, strong negative. It's entirely based on how you perform this. So looking at this, you can see that question 5 part 1 option is completed, and then you have to have an explanation of this. What do you see in this picture? What trend do you see? So similarly, whether you can highlight all this and then you can actually start writing in here, that is one option. And the other option is that you can actually insert. We can see something in here, which is the if you go and insert, and then you see a comment box in here, and we got a text box here as well. So you can actually take a text box and then you can actually drag and drop, and then you can start writing whatever you think about what do you see on the screen. So this is question 5 part 1. Now, to do the second part of the question 5, which is you look at, remember guys, before I go on to the second part of the question, this information is really important, which is what trend do you observe in this question. So the marks for this question is purely based on, mostly based on what trend do you observe. So you might have different observations. On the basis of your observations and writing, you will be marked for this question. Then second part of the question is that how does ownership status influence both purchase frequency and insurance cost? Again, here we are talking about 3 different columns: ownership status, purchase frequency, we already have used that one in the previous part, and then the insurance cost in here. So similarly, what we do now is we go back into the data, and I'm going to click anywhere in the screen and then click on insert, and then pivot table, from table range. Make sure you click on the first option, then this window appears, and then the new worksheet appears. You press OK, and then once you press that one in here, the pivot table appears. So coming back onto this sheet, I'm going to give the name to this sheet as, sorry, I want to give the name to this sheet as question 5, part 2, right? So this is the second part. So remember, we have 3 columns to play with in here. So the first column was the ownership status. So let's figure out where is the ownership status in here. Here we go. You can actually drag and drop in the rows here. So the first option is this, and then second column and the third column was the purchase frequency. So I think they were just up there. Yeah. Purchase frequency, drag and drop in the values, and then insurance cost as well, drag and drop in the values here. So you can see these options here. Once you have figured out until now, what you're going to do next is that you click on each of these the values column, which is in this case is the sum of insurance cost. You click on value field, then click on average, and then you press average of insurance. And then you go back into the second column as well, which is the sum of purchase frequency, value field settings, and then you go in average, not max average, press OK. So here you can see that these options have been appearing in here. So in fact, what you could have done is that you can, if I click onto this one, I'm going to move up. So I'm just going to change the sequence of this information, because here, well, there is no harm, there is nothing wrong in having what I did earlier was that purchase frequency was the second column instead of the third column instead of the second column. But looking at this one, you can actually clearly see this information, that purchase frequency and then the average of insurance cost. So you can see that wherever the ownership status is on, like those who own the car, they probably have got 2.5 as the purchase frequency. So 2.5 purchase frequency, having more of the average insurance cost is 779, whereas the least one is 2.42 and they got average insurance cost is 780. So what I'm in this data, what do you see? What do you observe? This is what you need to explain in here, right? So just for a little explanation is that you are paying those who have got financed of the cars, they are paying 2.3 of the purchase frequency, but they are paying a higher amount of insurance cost. So you need to explain that. Whether you want to draw the graph is entirely your choice, but there is no particular requirement. But this is what you need to explain in here. So it depends on how you explain that. Once your explanation is completed, then we will mark that on the basis of what we see, how close is your observation to the correct one. So again, you have to have a text box in here, and then you can start your explanation here for the second part as well. I hope this video is useful, but if you would have any questions, please feel free to bring those questions for me during the seminar session, and I will see you soon. Take care of yourself. Bye.